Check out this clip for the most recent county chat where we're talking about Gloucestershire losing lots of fast bowling prospects over the winter and how this is an existential issue for county cricket and the small counties within it.
So, to me, it is about as disastrous as it can get. Young bowling and young seam bowling is about as important in county cricket as anything. Injury levels are so high, as we know, and it's just tricky to get bowlers who bowl consistently in the 80s and don't get injured very often. It's a tricky thing to have a lot of, and Gloucestershire had that, and that was one of their main strengths for years, effectively, and especially sort of in the 2020s. Now we're kind of into the back half of the 2020s, as scary as that is. They've now gone from having this very young. People were incredibly impressed by them and the sort of potential they might have if the batting kept growing and the bowlers stayed around Gloucestershire. Gloucestershire could have had a good few years, in my opinion, in Division 1 with this kind of young core. Unfortunately, the finances of cricket have got in the way, and Gloucestershire's maybe poor mismanagement, similar to Sussex in recent times, they just sort of had it a year earlier. So it's a real shame. Excuse me. And it's a real tough moment for Gloucestershire for that reason. It's quite existential in a way for county cricket, I would say, personally. I just think it proves almost all the systemic issues within county cricket at the moment, and the fact that basically Gloucestershire gets no reward. It's not like they get compensation like you do in the NFL when players leave in free agency, or in other sports there is some level of like mitigation for young players that you've helped develop and develop is the word. And then if they leave for free, you get some level of compensation in other sports. So to me, I think there's a whole another video to be made on that. There is plenty systemic in the county cricket world that I think lends itself to just the big clubs staying big and small clubs not being able to catch up. And Gloucestershire, I think, are a really tough example of that. I had in my notes not to rant. I feel like I already have ranted a bit, but Gloucestershire, I think, are a particular example, a particular case of this happening in a very obvious way.